The night the twins were abandoned, the world outside was drowning in rain. Not the kind that gently taps the windows, but the kind that feels like the sky itself is breaking apart. Elena always remembered that night not because she witnessed the storm, but because it felt like the universe was preparing her heart for something it knew she was not ready for. She was 22, barely making enough to afford her rent, spending every day in a little tailor shop tucked between a bakery and a mechanic's garage. While other girls her age were planning futures, she was planning how to stretch a single loaf of bread into 3 meals. Still, she stitched dresses with dreams she didn't admit even to herself, dreams she poured into every thread. It was past midnight when her phone rang. The hospital nurse sounded frantic. "Elena, are you awake? You need to come here. There's something I think only you can help with. Only you." Those were the words that pulled her into the night, umbrella flipping in the wind as she ran through puddles. She didn't understand why the nurse said it, or why her heart pounded as if she already knew something extraordinary was waiting for her. When she entered the nursery room, she froze. 2 tiny babies, twins, lay side by side in a crib, bundled in mismatched blankets, their faces red from so much crying. Their chests rose and fell quickly, breaths trembling like they were afraid of the world already. "What happened?" Elena whispered. "They were left at the entrance," the nurse said softly. "No one saw who left them. Just this note." The paper looked wet, the ink smudged as though the writer cried while writing it. "Please give them a better life than I can." Elena stared at those words for a long time. They felt like a plea, like a wound, like a mother's last breath of hope placed inside a basket and pushed into the world. The nurse sighed. "We've contacted social services. But there's no space anywhere. They might be separated." Separated. Something inside Elena cracked. These babies were only hours old. They didn't know each other, yet they were all each other had. They clung to each other even in sleep, their foreheads touching. "Can I hold them?" Elena asked, her voice trembling. The moment she picked them up, one in each arm, they stopped crying. Just like that. As if their little hearts recognized safety in her warmth. Their eyes, barely open, blinked up at her with the kind of trust no adult could ever hold. And that was the moment Elena knew. She didn't decide to adopt them. Her heart simply took them in, the way lungs take in air, naturally, inevitably, without permission. It wasn't easy. The adoption process was long, complicated, filled with questions she didn't always have answers to. The social worker asked her again and again. "You're young. You're single. You're financially unstable. Are you sure you can take care of 2 babies?" But they didn't see what she had seen. They didn't feel the moment those tiny hands wrapped around her finger like she was the anchor of their world. They didn't hear the silence that fell when she cradled them for the first time. She named the boy Adrian because it meant strength. She named the girl Aria because her cry sounded like the beginning of a song. Those first years were a battle she fought in silence. She worked double shifts, stitched until her fingers bled, skipped meals so the twins never had to. Her apartment was small, the electricity sometimes cut out, but she kept it bright with lullabies and bedtime stories she made up on the spot. Every time she fed them when she herself was hungry, she whispered, "You'll never feel abandoned again. Not as long as I'm alive." The twins grew fast. Adrian learned to walk by chasing after buttons she dropped on the floor. Aria learned to talk by naming colors of the threads Elena used. Their laughter filled every corner of the tiny home, dissolving the exhaustion Elena carried like second skin. She never once regretted adopting them. But motherhood had changed her more deeply than she realized. There were nights she sat by the window, watching other people's lights flicker through the street, wondering if she was enough. Could she give them everything they deserved? Would she ever stop feeling like she was stitching her life together with scraps? She kept going, telling herself love could cover all holes. But destiny had a strange way of proving her wrong. 12 years passed. The twins were in 5th grade, full of life and curiosity. Adrian would come home excited about science experiments, while Aria filled pages with sketches of sunsets. Elena often stood quietly at the doorway, watching them, feeling a mixture of pride and fear, a fear that one day, something could break this world she had built. And that day arrived without warning. It was a Friday evening. The tailor shop had been unusually busy, and Elena returned home exhausted, shopping bags dangling from her sore fingers. But the moment she reached her building, her stomach twisted. A black luxury car, sleek, polished, glaringly out of place, was parked right outside. She felt her heartbeat change rhythm. People like her didn't cross paths with people who owned cars like that. She climbed the stairs slowly, every step heavier than the last. Something was wrong. She felt it. She knew it. Her hands shook as she pushed open the apartment door. Inside, Adrian and Aurea sat together on the sofa, unusually quiet. Their feet dangled off the edge, their eyes fixed on the man standing in the middle of the room. Tall. Broad-shouldered. Sharp suit. Polished shoes. A presence that radiated authority and wealth. A stranger who didn't belong in her world. Who are you?" she whispered. The man turned around. His expression wasn't cold or threatening, it was something worse. It was sorrow mixed with hope, pain mixed with longing. His eyes locked onto the twins as if he'd been searching for them his entire life. "My name," he said slowly, "is Alexander Grant." Elena froze. Everyone knew that name. CEO of Grant Industries. Billionaire. A man who appeared on news headlines and magazine covers. A man who owned companies, skyscrapers, entire districts. A man whose world was so far from hers it felt like another universe. He looked at her, then at the twins, and his voice broke as he spoke the words that shattered everything Elena thought she knew. "And I'm their biological father." For a long moment, Elena could only hear the ticking of the cheap wall clock, a sound that suddenly felt louder, heavier, almost cruel in the silence that followed Alexander's words. The twins looked confused, waiting for her reaction, but Elena's body refused to move. Everything inside her felt suspended, like a dress hanging on a line with no wind to guide its sway. What are you talking about?" she finally managed, her voice hoarse and breaking. Alexander stepped closer, not threatening, but with the careful hesitation of a man walking barefoot toward a painful memory. He pulled a folded envelope from his coat pocket, his hands trembling just enough for Elena to notice. "My past has more shadows than I ever admitted," he said quietly. "Their mother, she and I were together for a short time. I didn't know she was pregnant. I didn't even know she was carrying twins. She left without telling me anything. And he swallowed hard, I never looked for answers. I was young. Focused on building my company. I thought she simply moved on." Elena listened, but disbelief coated her heart like thick frost. She had built her entire life around Adrian and Aurea. Every sacrifice. Every tear. Every hope. Now this man stood in her home with stories that could rewrite everything. When she passed away, Alexander continued, "I found a letter among her things. It explained everything. She hid her pregnancy. She said she wasn't ready to raise children. She didn't want to ruin my career. But she regretted it. Deeply. Her last request was that I find them." He looked at the twins again, and this time Elena noticed something in his eyes, fear. Not the fear of a powerful man losing control, but the fear of a father terrified he might be too late. "I've been searching for months," he whispered. "And then I found the records, which led me here." Elena felt the ground shifting beneath her. She wanted to scream, to cry, to push him out the door and protect what she had built. But the twins were watching her with wide eyes, sensing her fear and mirroring it. Aurea tugged on Elena's sleeve. "Mama, are we okay?" That word, Mama, burned Alexander's heart so visibly that he had to look away for a moment. Elena knelt beside the twins. "Yes, my loves. You're okay. Nothing will ever change that." But the truth was, everything had already changed. The next days unfolded like a movie she didn't remember auditioning for. Alexander didn't disappear. He didn't force anything. He didn't bring lawyers or papers or threats. Instead, he returned the next afternoon with something Elena did not expect: humility. "I'm not here to take them away," he said, standing in the hallway with no bodyguards, no expensive suit, just a father with regret clinging to him. "I just want to know them. Even if only a little." Elena hesitated. Her instincts screamed to protect the twins, but a different whisper, one she fought to ignore, told her that maybe knowing their past wasn't a danger. Maybe it was their right. So she agreed to short visits. Just an hour. Then 2. Then a weekend afternoon in the park. Alexander showed up to every meeting early. He learned the twins' favorite snacks. He memorized their schedules. He really listened when Adrian rambled about building robots or when Aria pointed at clouds and imagined stories inside them. The twins began asking about him more and more. Is he really our real dad? Why didn't he come sooner? Does he love us? Questions that sliced Elena's heart open every time, because she didn't know how to answer them without breaking something inside herself. One evening, after another long day at the shop, she found Alexander sitting on the floor with Adrian and Aria, helping them with homework. Not supervising, teaching. Laughing. Encouraging. The twins looked so comfortable around him that for a moment, Elena felt like an outsider in her own home. It terrified her. When the kids went to bed, she finally confronted him. Why are you doing this? She asked, crossing her arms tightly. You're a CEO. You have everything. Why step into a life that doesn't belong to you anymore? He looked at her with a softness she wasn't ready for. Because I missed everything, he said. Their first steps. Their first words. Every birthday. Every scar. Every fear. Every smile. I can never get those years back. But I can try to earn whatever part of them you'll let me have. His honesty broke something inside her. She didn't want to like him. She didn't want to trust him. But her heart, a traitor she never could control, felt something shift every time he showed up with gentleness, not power, with sincerity, not arrogance. The more he came, the more the twins blossomed. Adrian's confidence grew. Aria's imagination soared. Their world expanded, and Elena couldn't deny how good it was for them. But with every smile they shared with Alexander, her fear grew deeper. Would they start seeing him as more than she could ever be? Would he one day take them away? Her nights became a battlefield of thoughts she couldn't silence. Then came the evening that changed everything. It was late. The twins were asleep. Elena sat hunched over her sewing machine, mending a wedding dress that wasn't even hers. The room smelled of fabric and fatigue. Her fingers ached. Her back throbbed. And her eyes burned with exhaustion. Without knocking, Alexander stepped inside quietly. He had been returning the kids after a day out and saw her light still on. You're exhausted, he said gently. I'm fine. She didn't look at him. You're not. His voice was soft, not accusing, just caring. And somehow that was worse. He walked closer, watching her hands shake slightly as she stitched. Elena, he said, his voice breaking with something unspoken. You've raised them with love that I may never deserve to understand. You carried a burden meant for two parents. You fought battles alone. You gave them a life when no one else would. And I don't want to undo that. I want to stand beside it. Her breath caught in her throat. What are you saying? He took a slow breath. I want to be part of their lives, but I also want to be part of yours. Elena felt the world tilt. Don't, she whispered. Don't say something you don't mean. But I do mean it, he said, stepping closer. I didn't come back only to find my children. I came back and found the woman who saved them. And somehow, without realizing it, you also saved me. His words sank into her like warmth after years of cold. Her heart raced. Her hands trembled. She looked away, at the threads scattered around her, at the machine that had carried her through life. But suddenly, all she could feel was the space between them, small, fragile, full of possibilities she once never dared imagine. Alexander, she whispered, this is complicated. He smiled softly. All beautiful things are. Silence wrapped around them, warm and delicate. Outside, the city hummed. Inside, their breaths felt like chapters waiting to be written. For the first time, Elena wondered if fate had stitched their lives together long before they ever knew it. Maybe love didn't arrive with fireworks. Maybe sometimes, it arrived quietly in hospital nurseries, in tiny hands that needed saving, in second chances wrapped in regret, and in a man who walked back into the lives he never knew he'd lost. And in a seamstress who taught him that a broken past can still sew a beautiful future.